The Geometry Dash of today is a far cry from what the original vision for the game was in 2013. Not everyone thinks that this is a good thing. Many players look at what Robtop has been adding and say, "This isn't GD, get it out of here." They think he should stop doing this new stuff and just focus on building what they see as the game's true identity. But, as I will argue in this video, Geometry Dash's new identity makes it a far more interesting game than it was with just the original core mechanic, and branching out from this mechanic is what made the game special. Geometry Dash hasn't lost sight of its original vision, it's surpassed it. But what is this new identity? How has Robtop's vision for GD evolved from 2013 until now? Well, originally, Geometry Dash was a simple rhythm rage platformer, much narrower in scope than the game we know today. It was able to stand out in this niche because its gameplay was far more varied than that of its competition. Some of the game's unique features included jump rings, gravity flips, and portals which changed the way physics work. This wealth of different features made it appeal to many gaming YouTubers in the mid-2010s, allowing it to see some success during this time period. Geometry Dash's more appealing gameplay made it the best choice for many YouTubers wanting to play a rage game in a video, and so its popularity took off, giving us an answer as to what GD's original identity was: a simple, rhythm-based platformer with levels that were rage-inducing and yet hard to put down. It wasn't the most visually impressive game in the world, but that wasn't the point. This was a game that got its appeal from a uniquely rich gameplay system, not from beautiful art styles or mind-blowing visual effects. Understanding Geometry Dash's original vision gives us important context for tackling the discourse surrounding controversial aspects of modern GD. You see, people such as YouTuber Omega Falcon argue that platformer mode, minigames, and whatnot are bad for GD because they clearly aren't a part of the game's original identity. And common game design wisdom is that devs should find a single core mechanic that makes their game distinctive and just focus on developing that. Once you find your game's winning formula, don't lose sight of it by adding extraneous features. Based on this logic, Update 2.2 has been a serious misstep, as it did quite the opposite. The thing about this philosophy, though, is that it would also tell Robtop not to mess with what was working back in the early days. It would tell Robtop that now that his game had an identity, it should stay that way forever. But Robtop had other ideas. He was about to reinvent Geometry Dash, replacing its former identity with a new one, and massively increasing the game's scope in the process. In other words, he was going to break all of the rules, and it would work out for him. A sharp transition was made, with the amount of decorative options in the level editor gradually increasing with each update, until eventually 1.9 came out, allowing creators to go completely buck wild. Their creative potential had been vastly increased, and they would use this potential to push the boundaries of what was possible and create projects with artistic visions completely separate from that of the official levels. This update is often referred to as the golden age of Geometry Dash, and it represented a major change to GD's identity. No longer just a simple mobile game, Geometry Dash was becoming a veritable game engine, and a blank canvas for visual art, where the only limit was your imagination. 1.9 is the most fondly remembered update in Geometry Dash history, including among people like Omega Falcon, which is kind of strange given that it flies completely in the face of their core mechanic theory. This new identity for Geometry Dash was further built on in each subsequent update leading up to the present day. More and more power was given to creators to build anything they wanted, culminating in 2.2 with platformer mode. Even before this update, people were making all sorts of creations that some would say aren't real Geometry Dash. Two-player mode, introduced in 1.8, was exploited to recreate other games or make original gameplay in the GD editor, and of course platform mode facilitated these types of creations as well. Having levels that looked different was one thing, but now they were starting to play differently too, and some in the community lamented that creations were straying further and further away from the game's roots. I really hate to see people feel this way about GD's current direction because all Robtop is really doing is building on the game's new identity, an identity that has proven itself to be good for the community. I truly see these recent developments as functionally no different from the advent of decoration in GD. These were both entirely new aspects of level creation being added to the game, and they were both game changers for the creating community. It's easy to forget this because decoration is now the heart and soul of most Geometry Dash levels, including those that fit with GD's original identity, but decoration was not a part of the vision at first and is definitely not the core mechanic of the game. But we love that, so why can't we give these new features a chance? I think the whole stick with what your game does well thing is good advice for most indie game developers, but I think Geometry Dash has shown that doing the opposite can make the game even better. I mean, do people call 1.9 the golden age of Geometry Dash because it hyper-focused on improving the game's core mechanic of jumping, flying, and orbiting around spikes? No. They call it that because of its features, which gave creators the potential to build custom levels that looked nothing like the levels of old. I know that people aren't advocating for decoration to be removed from the game. What they have a problem with is the fact that people are making platformers, boss fights, platformer boss fights, and role-playing games in Geometry Dash when Geometry Dash isn't Super Mario Maker or RPG Maker. Its systems for these types of gameplay are never going to be as cutting edge as the system for rhythm-based gameplay, so these levels can feel unpolished and downright buggy. And the opportunity cost of trying to further develop these systems is that Robtop can't give as many updates and as much new content to Classic Mode, which is what these people see as the real GD. Robtop's current direction sacrifices quality for quantity, and evidently these people don't think that this trade-off is worth it. I couldn't disagree more. I'd make that trade in a heartbeat. The nearly limitless creative potential that these last few updates have provided is a treasure that no amount of updates to the so-called core of GD could ever hope to replace. The creating community is far better for the fact that these types of levels exist, even if not everyone likes to play them. Robtop has not fallen into any sort of trap by adding these exciting new features to the game, and to tell him that he has is to tell him to remove what makes this game special. Creators not being confined into a box of what they can build in the editor. Players having far more reasons to come and play the game. A vibrant community who never fail to impress with their accomplishments. None of this is possible if Robtop follows this advice. Being really good at one thing gave the game some initial success, but being able to pivot, branch out, and find a new identity, that is what made Geometry Dash more than a mobile game. I love that Robtop has given this community such a huge sandbox to play in and make whatever we can imagine in GD. One problem I have is that the community can be pretty unwelcoming to new creators if they make a level that the community doesn't like, particularly if that level is a remake of a more famous one. The video on screen takes a deep dive into the cruelty of this community towards remake creators, and why their attitude has got to go.